Okay, this is, I'm going to read this to you. It's really cool. Astronaut, okay, this paper is from February 21st, 1962. Okay, and here's the photo. Okay, one of the photos. Okay, astronaut Glenn returns in triumph from historic journeys around the globe. Okay, so, oh God. So, all world applauds orbit shot. Moscovites pleased too. The people of the world raised an almost universal cheer from the heart Tuesday night for Lieutenant Colonel John H. Glenn Jr.'s epic voyage into space and his safe return. From Vatican City to Tokyo, from government ministries to working men's bars, in homes and offices, from the Arctic to the equator, mankind thrilled at the news of the 40-year-old American triple orbit of the globe. Expressions of sympathy, pride, praise arose in a babel of tongues, but the meanings were crystal clear. Congratulations. Well done. It seems that all shared tension. It seems that the people, almost every land, following Glenn's exploit through the news dispatch radio and TV, shared in the tension, relief, and enthusiasm of the United States and the joy that yet another human being had ventured successfully into the uncharted reaches of space. It proved to be a sort of super goodwill tour. Even the Russians, sometimes disdainful of U.S. failures, appeared sympathetic towards the American triumph, though it was part of the U.S. effort to trim their lead in the space race. We're always in a space race. Moscow radio and TV outlets carried factual accounts of the launching and the flight and were swift to announce Glenn's safe return. Moscovites seemed genuinely pleased and even delighted. Hope he gets back, said a typical citizen in the news of the blastoff. Horozio? Good, exclaimed the Russian policeman when Glenn came back to Earth. Praise voiced. In Ottawa, Soviet Ambassador Amasap Artun something voiced praise for Glenn, for the American people, their technicians and workers. I believe this remarkable achievement is another step towards a better cooperation of scientists and of the world, and in particular of the Soviet Union and the United States, he declared. In Europe, a flood of congratulation messages flowed from capital city to Washington. West German Chancellor Konrad Adenauer wired President Kennedy, I wish to congratulate you and the American people wholeheartedly on behalf of the German people. British Prime Minister Harold Macmillan and Sweden's Prime Minister Tage Erlander were among those first to get off the message to congratulations for Glenn and President Kennedy. Other comments in Madrid. Girolamo Franco sent cordial congratulations from Spain and said Glenn's triumph contributes so much to human progress. In Italy, Pope John 55111 was kept abreast of Glenn's flight. A Vatican source said Supreme Pontiff of the Roman Catholic Church most certainly prayed for the American safe return. Alright? So, and then it goes on to go. We'll bypass this officers rearrest murder suspect and we'll go right over to here. And it says, President is proud. Washington. Following following is the text of the telephone conversation between President Kennedy, speaking from White House, and astronaut John H. Glenn Jr. aboard the destroyer Noah. Kennedy: hello? Glenn: hello, sir. Kennedy: Colonel? Glenn: this is Colonel Glenn. Kennedy: listen, Colonel, we're really proud of you, and I must say you did a wonderful job. Glenn: thank you, Mr. President. Kennedy: we are glad you got down in good shape. I have just been watching your father and mother on television, and they seem very happy. Glenn: it was a wonderful trip, almost unbelievable thinking back on it now, but it was really tremendous. Kennedy: well, I'm coming down to Canaveral on Friday. I hope you will come up to Washington on Monday or Tuesday, and I will be looking forward to seeing you there. Glenn: fine. I will certainly look forward to it. So, public view for the next red orbit asks. United Nations, here it is right there. United Nations, New York. Adlai E. Stevenson expressed hope Tuesday the Soviet Union will follow the example of the United States and permit the public to witness its next managed spaceflight. The chief U.S. delegate was among scores of the UN diplomats and officials who kept in touch with the flight of astronaut John H. Glenn Stevenson. Although suffering from a touch of influenza, visited the Crowd Press Club at UN headquarters to hear about the flight's end. This is an exhilarating day for all Americans, and I think for all the people who are interested in the advancement of science, he said. Stevenson voiced hope that the attainment of equality with the Soviet Union is in this aspect of the conquest of the outer space will assist in the work of the UN Outer Space Committee, which meets March 19th. He said he was happy that the United States had decided to open all details of the Glenn flight to the public. I hope the Soviet Union will follow suit, he added. This is so important to all mankind. It should be the public's domain. Acting Secretary General UN. Oh, what's that word? Oh, I can't see that word. My glasses aren't right for me. That telegraphed President Kennedy warmest congratulations from the Secretary of the United Nations on Glenn's spectacular feat. This is yet another significant step in man's conquest of space and time, and striking demonstrations of technological and scientific progress, which the whole world hopes will be used for peaceful purposes and for the benefit of all mankind. Isn't that so cool? And then it says Kennedy visits Cape Canaveral. I didn't read these ones. Oh. And it says Kennedy, bless his heart. Cape Canaveral, Florida. Astronaut John H. Glenn Jr. rocketed around the world 3 times Tuesday in a magnificently display of icy courage, and President Kennedy said he would arrive here Friday to offer the nation's thanks. The 40-year-old Marine Lieutenant Colonel flight ended at 2:43 p.m. EST in the Atlantic Ocean near Grand Turk Island in the Bahamas, around 700 miles southeast of here. An obviously pleased and proud President Kennedy also said he would receive Glenn in Washington on Monday or Tuesday, which undoubtedly will spell a huge celebration in the victory-hungry capital. Talks to wife. Oh, he talks to his wife. Glenn and his capsule were plucked from the sparkling blue sea by the destroyer USS Noah at 3:01 p.m., and Glenn reported, "My condition is excellent." After taking a shower aboard the Noah, Glenn asked to his wife and then to President Kennedy by radio telephone. At 5:44 p.m., he was transferred by helicopter to the anti-submarine carrier Randolph for a brief physical examination, and at 8:04 p.m. was sent by Whirlybird to Grand Turk Islands, arriving around 9 p.m. There he will stay for 48 hours and undergo more exhaustive physical examinations and questioning about his flight by the team of scientists and doctors. Before the year is out, the United States plans to make 4 more flights similar to the ones by Glenn, and then wind up 1962 with an 18-orbit flight. Let's see. Selected for the next trip into space and around the world is Maj Donald Kemp Slayton of the Air Force. His rocket is already here and undergoing tests. While Glenn is at Grand Turk, he will be visited by Vice President Lyndon Johnson, who will fly with him to meet the President. Glenn's first comment as his capsule Friendship 7 descended was sent in a radio message to Project Mercury control here. "Boy, that was a real fireball of a ride," he said. The decision to make that the third orbit after some minor technical difficulties had developed on the first 2 was Glenn's. The decision to make the third orbit after some minor technical difficulties had developed on the first 2 was Glenn's. When asked if he wanted to try for 3, Glenn replied, "Affirmative, I'm ready to go." Even so, he landed some 45 to 55 miles short of the planned landing area after firing his braking rockets at 2:20 p.m. The reverse rocket gave him such a jolt, he cried, I feel like I'm heading back towards Hawaii." Saluting the space master, President Kennedy hailed him as the kind of man whom the country could be proud. "We have a long way to go in the space race, and we started late," Kennedy said. "This is the new ocean, and I believe the United States must sail on it and be in a position second to none." As Glenn started the third and the last leg of his trip around the world at 17,530 miles an hour, 17,530 miles an hour, reported, "I feel real good, no problems at all." Oh, that's so cool. Let's see. Even while Glenn was in his last orbit, varying from 100 miles to 160 miles, high congratulations were pouring in from much of the world, including the Soviet Union. Millions of proud Americans watched this first launching of an American into Earth's orbit in something akin to silent awe. And then came the cheers. Glenn began to climb into the blue-black of space at 9:47 a.m. when his 360,000-pound thrust at last missile blossomed with the clouds of smoke and bright yellow flame and arced eastward into the brilliant sun hanging over the Atlantic. Except for some minor troubles with the altitude control jets, the little gas nozzle that establishes his relationship to the horizon, the entire operation was a miracle of precision rocketry. Ho-hum task. The altitude troubled Glenn corrected by switching to control systems that was part of manual, part automatic. As he whizzed through the space from day to night and back again in minutes, Glenn sounded quite calm, as if he did this sort of thing every day. while he confined himself mostly to reports on conditions within the capsule, a technical summary couched in space age jargon. While he confined himself mostly to reports on conditions in the capsule, a technical summary couched in space age jargon, he did make a brief comment from time to time on the view from way up there. Once he said, "The horizon is beautiful blue." At another point, he exclaimed, "I can see the whole state of Florida spread out like a map. I can see all the way back to the Mississippi Delta." As he passed from the brilliant sunlight enveloping the space center, zipped across Africa and the Indian Ocean into the dark concealing Australia, he said, "Sure was a short day." Saw the light of the Perth. His first trip around the Earth and into Wednesday, February 21st, and back again at mid-Pacific on February 20th, required only 88.29 minutes. Wow, that's pretty darn fast. Okay, there we are. As he hurtled over the Perth, Australia, the city was lit by millions of lights turned on by the residents as gesture of goodwill and good luck. He told the ground tracking station to "Thank you everyone for turning them on." After making his first trip, Glenn reported one oddity, still unexplained. He said he noted thousands of luminous particles outside of his cabin window, traveling at the same speed as his Friendship 7. They glowed in the sun rising over the Pacific. One guess is that they were dust specks. Space dust. How cool. As for his prolonged weightlessness, Glenn said during his flight that he was having no trouble at all. On his first orbit, and even before he passed Africa. Where am I at? Where to go? Darn it. I was checking the camera and then I lost my place. Darn it. Oh, come on, Natalie. Someone pointed it out to me. Okay, there. Okay, right there. Glenn elected to try catting from his squeeze. Or catting or eating? Oh, tried eating from his squeeze bottle rations. 3,000 calories of baby food. He had been in the capsule since 6:03 a.m. Faulty valve. Here we go. During the pre-launch countdown, a hold was announced after a defective bolt in the hatch had been let's see. Had been discovered. It was repaired in a few minutes. Then came another hold. A faulty valve had turned up on the liquid oxygen fueling system. That was quickly repaired too. Oh God, he must have been nervous inside if he wasn't showing it on the outside. Right? The trip began with an earth-shaking roar at 9:47 a.m. For Glenn, the date with history began at 2:20 a.m. when he was awakened by his physician, Dr. William K. Douglas. He shaved and breakfast wearing a white bathrobe. At 3 a.m. he began undergoing his final pre-flight physical examination and had the medical seniors attached to his body. 2 hours and 52 minutes later, clad in silver, air-conditioned spacesuit, he walked from his space quarters and climbed into a waiting van. At 6:02 a.m., he began climbing into his 93-foot missile feet first and was settled in at 6:03. Talked with family. To break the long wait until liftoff, Glenn talked with his wife and children in Arlington, Virginia. As he did, look, that A dropped right there. See that? As he did on January 27th, when he waited vainly for the liftoff command for 5 hours and 13 minutes. 2 minutes after he began climbing towards the stairs, Glenn reported all systems were go. He reported the big booster engine cut off 2 minutes after liftoff, and that he was being pressed against his special fiberglass and foam rubber couch by the force of gravity. On liftoff, the so-called gravity on... Oh, man. I'll get this focused in for you guys. I don't know if it is. Is it? I hope so. On liftoff, the so-called gravity forces made his body weigh 8 times its normal 168 rock-hard pounds. He had experienced 11 times the force of gravity in test, only seconds less than 3 minutes after he was pushed in a low arc towards Africa. Glenn reported the escape tower had separated and he had appeared to have a good trajectory. About 5 minutes after launch, the big Atlas booster fell away, and the spacecraft was swinging free into orbit. Glenn swung his capsule around so that his braking rockets and heat shield were facing forward, and he was riding backwards. I could afford to get not both. I don't... Okay, this has nothing to do with him. Little ones expressway delay, falling rocks. Check this out. Look at these photos. Yeah. President and nation cheer Glenn's spaceflight. Oh, look at Kennedy. Okay, here we go. That one. That one. You know he had to be nervous. That one. Rocket Man. President Kennedy speaking from the White House. Rose Garden salutes space conqueror John H. Glenn Jr. for his 3-orbit flight around the globe. The president said that in space, America must be in a position second to none. It burrs. Astronaut John Glenn writes spacewords inside his Mercury capsule, atop a Atlas missile from launch pad at Cape Canaveral on Tuesday. Oh, I guess it goes all the way. Does it go all the way across to read it? Okay. Astronaut John Glenn writes space word inside his Mercury capsule. Left missile is ready for firing. Center leaves pad and right it rises. Atop Atlas missile from launch pad at Cape Canaveral on Tuesday at above launching structure. 3 orbits were completed. Then you got them picking them up. Navy manned abroad destroyer NOAA work at opening a top of the space capsule as it is swung on deck following orbital flight. Glenn is still inside the capsule as if the attempt to lift main chute canister from escape hatch of craft. You know, this last house we did, the man that we worked with, the old man that was selling the house, he built, like he was a engineer, he was a parts maker. He made parts for this thing. I gotta I gotta get a hold of that man and let him know. He's got dementia, Alzheimer's, but it's not that bad. He might remember. I'll at least tell him with his daughter there and his grandson. I found some baseball cards for his grandson too. Okay. Yeah, and then these other guys that are around here, over in that place where the yellow flowers are, somewhere over there, these guys that went and took the boat out to pick this up are there, and like the old man who made the parts that I met, that we did work for, wants to get together with these guys because they're still alive and they're living here in Washington. You know, it's just amazing. What a small world. This is crazy. Because the guy that's doing this job in this house has nothing to do with the job we got over there. Completely two different ways we got the jobs. Glenn stands on deck, destroyer Noah in space suit with capsule in background shortly after recovery ship was within 6 miles of landing point. Also, the man that made the parts for this, he's just one of many. But not a whole bunch, but and it was top secret, and they weren't allowed to talk about it for years. He made duplicates of these parts, right? And his children or grandchildren framed those parts and put them in like a shadow box, and yeah, so he has those parts to the extra parts that goes to this space thing right here, ship, space rocket. Okay. Glenn sits on a stool aboard the destroyer after recovery from the capsule at sea. Some senior pads which recorded his reaction in space are shown. Isn't that cool? That's so freaking cool. He's happy. What a proud wife he had, huh? Glenn rests on bunk during examination aboard the Noah following his 3-orbit flight around the world. Microphone to record reactions rests on the shoulder of Glenn. Experienced 8 times force of gravity of liftoff. Boy, that's so cool. This is a drawing illustrates John Glenn's flight on Tuesday. 3 times around the world with his landing near his goal of the Grand Turk Island area in the Bahamas. Associated Press artist John Carlington turned out this animated drawing. All went according to plan. AP photo. So, I don't know if there's any more in this paper. Isn't that cool? Okay, I'll do it up. Yay. This is so neat. I think this is the coolest thing I've scored so far. I don't know, besides that book. That book is killer. I like that book too. Let's see. Oh, there's a little cartoon. Guess who? You don't look too happy. Okay, the peanuts. Remember the peanuts? Boy, there's glass sure get dirty. I've seen factory windows that were cleaner than this. I have just the thing for you, Linus. I've cut up a whole bunch of little flannel squares for you to use to wipe your glasses. Well, now wasn't that thoughtful of her? Nice little flannel squares. Just the sort of ones that might get if... Just the sort that one might get if one cut up one's blanket. How cute. Okay. Oh my goodness. She's such a little brat. Look at these cartoons. What does it say? I was just congratulating Martin on being elected club treasurer. Oh, that's a joint. Okay. The U.S. They went that way. Let's see. World applauds American hero. New blue. Work. Let's see. What's it say? Boy, they filled this newspaper up that day, didn't they? World applauds American hero once more for the third time, our nation is relieved that elated by the safe recovery of one of our astronauts after a successful voyage out into space. Martin Lieutenant Colonel John H. Glenn, Jr. yesterday became a national hero of stature equal to the heroes of any war. Deservedly, he will be honored by the President and Congress, the military, and the world of science, and by the nation that is proud of his accomplishments. He is to be admired, too, for his bearing throughout the long ordeal of training and of vexing awaits while weather conditions delayed the takeoff of his space vehicle. Typical of his courage and of his calm, factual approach to the unusual task was the insistence upon circling the earth a third time, and when it was suggested that he decided after two circuits because of minor equipment failure, appreciation is merited also by the many scientists and technicians and others who took part in any degree in creating and launching a rocket and spacecraft which could function so reliably that the capsule containing Glenn could complete its assignment, come down just where it was intended that it should, and be safely retrieved. The world of science considers the Mercury capsule flight an accomplishment of lasting importance, one that could lead to an even greater things. To all the people of many nations who followed the course of the flight, it was most thrilling show, and a credible feature of that was that, in a manner that a free world insists upon, the whole operation was carried out openly from the first announcement of the plans to the rescue and home reception of the astronaut. The Soviet Union, like all the rest of the world, was told what was to be done and could listen and record on tape the data and comments transmitted during flight. This was an American performance shared with and appreciated by all the world. It was well done, for which a nation thanks the heroic Marine officer and all who had part in helping him. That's so cool. Okay, now, the man I was talking to you about, that he was the first space flight that went out or into orbit. I don't know that it was this one. This was not the first one. So this is the paper, and it had all that stuff. Some of our best friends are raccoons. World Fair. This is on the World Fair. Oh, look at that. Oh, and remember them. I do. And Jerry Burns. Oh, look, this is Glenn Silent Start. Oh my God, it's gonna take me hours to read all this stuff. Oh my God. Well, I'll make another video. I'm gonna upload this one, then I'll read this one, Glenn Silent and Start end of Fast Ride, and then I'll read that. I reckon that's his wifey. Parents. Oh, and that's his parents. See his parents? God, they gotta be so ecstatically proud of him. Alright, Natalie Dawn, Mr. Baby Boy Floyd, and Cupcakeatha. Let's see you go in outer space, youngins. You better get good in math. Alright, I'll see you guys later. Peace out.